looks like the audio is going fine. I just can't hear it. So, grand. Let's, okay. I wanted to listen along. Alright, well, so, what the heck? I love that tile in the upper left there. The touchscreen was messed up, so it was generating hits that I didn't do, and that pulled up. I'm not sure. I think that's the debugging the log file. I'm not sure, but I had to go in and get rid of it, and it kept coming back anyway. So it was quite silly. Okay. Hey folks, just wanted to check in if it looks like the microphone is okay, and so here we are living in the land of wires. Uh, um, wow, that was it took an incredibly long time for the waiting room music to run out there. I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to do, but here we are. It's February 4th, and once again, hard to know what to think about the world we're living in right now. The old interesting times problem for sure. Anyway, so maybe I should mute the microphone for a minute, take a chance to blow my nose, try to get ready to go here, and let's go back and listen to Paradise, the Winter Garden bit. I got completely screwed up last month by trying to use a different Winter Gatan thing, which I had an official license to that I had downloaded properly, followed all the rules, and yet YouTube said, here's a copyrighted thing. Do you want us to erase it, or do you want to, something or other? So I let him erase it. It sounds awful. Anyway. Okay, so I think we are about ready to go, such as it is. I have not rehearsed this at all. So we'll see how I do on hitting 15 minutes. I always imagine I'm going to, this is ever since I started teaching back in 1994. I always was worried about I was going to run short. And I essentially always, for, 20, 30 years, 20 years, 25 years, something like that, always ran long. So, we have to see the trick is that if I'm not sure I've got enough stuff, I'll let myself follow up side issues early on to make sure I don't run short, and then I'll end up having to cut important stuff, and that's why I really should be trying to schedule enough time to actually rehearse these things enough just to gain confidence that I'm not going to run short, uh, and so not just blow smoke and waste time. Alrighty. Does the waiting room doesn't restart? I guess it's still going, so it must have already restarted. But we're out of time, so hey folks, it's T2sday. The goals for today, BV follows faster. We got BV tracking the line between the checkerboard grid tiles in BV's little simulated world, and it wasn't pretty, but it did work. BV follows faster. Oh yeah. He's going quite a bit faster. I mean, incredibly slow in the grand scheme of things, but compared to last time, there was a stretch goal of BV counting tiles. We achieved that too. And one of the things that I had been waiting the longest for, well, localization and mapping I've been waiting a long time for, but in a more down-to-earth practical sense, was being able to make controlled turns, reliable turns. We've got that as a double stretch goal that wasn't even mentioned before. So we'll take a look at that. Review my world model. I'll do that sort of indirectly. Make fun and share it. I realized after I did this last time that make fun could be considered to be like mockery, obviously. Not what I was intending. Okay, let's go. So development first, then community, and then my take on the world model review a little bit. It's an ongoing thing. So development, let's start by checking in with BV. Great stuff. Oh, come on. Let's watch it again, said Beavy. That's the third time, said Seneca. Come on, said Beavy, one more time. Seneca sighed and smiled and restarted the new Research Progress supercut. Again. Look at me, said Beavy. I look like an old man. Well, at least I'm following the damn line, said Beavy. Now, language, said Seneca. I'm not saying it, said Beavy. The lead dev said it. I'm just quoting. Save it for something worth it, said Seneca. I mean, what are you thinking about in all this? You've got a whole new skill now. You're the Racer Beavy. Who knows what it might lead to? What do you think about it? Well, it's funny, said Beavy. I mean, it all seems really kind of fussy. These tiny little differences in these gray sensors that make such a big deal. And, I like the curvy stuff. I liked it when I was chasing all over the place, following the yellow balls. This fussy stuff, it kind of makes me feel like a damn robot, said Beavy. Well, there you go, said Seneca. Well, there I do go, said Beavy. Look at that. Oh, yeah. I'm really flying there. Great stuff. Come on, let's watch it again. So, I'll talk a little bit about the process of figuring out how to speed Beavy up. The fundamental key to it, really, or at least the feather, Dumbo's feather, for me being Dumbo, was this webpage at Robot Research Lab, where they're building, they're doing real robots, physical robots, and doing PID line followers. So P standing for proportional integral derivative controller. And I've heard about these for ages. I had implemented related things long ago, but I never really understood it. And I was very afraid of it because it sounded like calculus, and all of this big stuff and so on. And the Robot Research Lab folks made it a lot easier to get started. And so the first thing we did was implement a PD without the I, proportional. So the bigger the error, the harder you correct. So the further BV drifts off the line between the tiles, the harder it corrects. That's that proportional part. And then the derivative part is if the error from last time is smaller than the error this time, that suggests we're homing in on the zero error case, which is where we want to be. So maybe we shouldn't correct as much as the current amount of error suggests. And I'm not sure how much that really helps for BV because BV's stuff is so noisy, and the state of the world in the previous, what passes for a time step, is very confusing and so forth. So I'm not sure. But nonetheless, with some tuning, following the advice from the Robot Research Lab, I got, the fact that BV is only driving on straight lines helps things quite a bit. But, there's so much noise. There's noise in the sensors. There's noise inside the cellular automata that BV's brain is implemented in. And there's noise explicitly added to the motors. So the commands that BV's brain sends down about how fast the motor should be going, they get mangled with just before they get delivered to the motors. And there's nothing that can be done about it. That all has to just be handled. So I felt pretty good about getting to follow the damn line faster. And I went on to counting tiles and to trying these controlled turns. So here's this story, but in the background is the state of the art in making controlled turns. Let's take a look at that. Vivi and Seneca were watching the results of the controlled turn experiments that had worked so spectacularly well. "Isn't this great?" said Vivi. Seneca didn't say anything. Vivi looked at Seneca and said, "What's up?" "So, Vivi, I'm leaving," said Seneca. "See you tomorrow," said Vivi. "Well, I won't be here tomorrow," said Seneca. "I'm going home. I might never be back." "Oh, don't go," said Vivi. "Stay." "Well, I'm a summer intern," said Seneca, "and I was supposed to leave last fall. But I kept making excuses to stick around. And we did fun stuff, right?" "Brains are fun," said Vivi. "But now there's like politics and stuff out there, Vivi," said Seneca. Stuff's really fucked up. It's kind of not safe for me to stay in this country." "Well, that sucks," said Vivi. "It really does," said Seneca. "Look at me weaving there," said Vivi. "What's that about?" "Was I tired?" "I'm not sure," said Seneca. "I think you might have the sign wrong on your integral error." "Well, story of my life," said Vivi. "But look, Vivi, I've got a friend I'd like you to meet that I'm hoping you can stay with you. So, Vivi, meet Slim." "Ah! Big yellow ball! Push, 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 push!" "No, no," said Seneca. "This is Slim the Plustodon. It represents the Fediverse. It represents one particular piece of the Fediverse, but I think it represents all of the Fediverse for now. Let's make it a little smaller so it's not so scary like a big yellow ball." "Okay," said Vivi. "Hi, Slim." "Hi, Vivi," said Slim. "I think y'all be great friends," said Seneca. "Until we meet again." So, the world out there sucks. It sucks for a lot of people, and it's going to suck for a lot of more people, it seems. This is my lame-ass memorializing of it for today. So, okay, community. I got an email like a couple of months ago from a guy whose handle is Leviathan, Lansendorf, or David Lanz, something like that, who is the principal of this Libre Silicon project that is working to make a complete end-to-end chip manufacturing workflow that is all open source. And that is not, that's very hard. There's a ton of reasons why open source hardware is kind of a different beast, kind of harder than open source software, because there's a lot more customization in manufacturing physical stuff since you end up with physical chips that were manufactured one by one somehow, as opposed to just a pile of bits that can be stamped off in the world of software. And Leviathan had seen the What Machines Want video and reached out, and I sort of lost track of the mail for a little bit, but finally I got back to it. And so in this past month, we had a Zoom call. There were four Libre Silicon folks on the call, and then me. And I didn't really get to meet any of them except for Leviathan. But it's like, it was like, Magnets, the silent guy, and H, his henchman. But it was great. Obviously, kindred spirits at some level, and interested in looking for way. I mean, they've actually done, a whole lot of stuff that is, getting very close to putting all the pieces together to having open source software that'll actually lay stuff out, that'll follow the rules of a particular foundry, that there's actually willing to make chips for them, and so on and so forth. It's really great. But, it's kind of low level. And so one of the things so we spun some ideas about how stuff that we might be able to do that would be relevant to indefinite scalability, relevant to the T2 tile project. And the long and short of it was that if I could build something on an FPGA that would demonstrate something useful, that would be a good intermediate position that would lead more quickly to a direct hardware implementation, perhaps hopefully using an entirely open source workflow. And so that's been sticking in my mind, and it's been sticking in my mind for quite some time. As I do these various projects, like when I did the digital replicator, the digital cell replicator, it got so big that it took so much time. It took, like weeks and weeks, months to do big runs on the T2 matrix because it's so slow. And the same thing is starting to happen with BV. I don't know if you saw what BV was doing. BV was marching around the grid, making smaller and smaller boxes until it was finally handling it all in the center. And so I want to, start running before catching the football a little bit and say, okay, I have learned a ton with the T2s and with Ulam and with all of these projects. And I want to now go back for another iteration. Not a T3 tile necessarily, because that's asking a little bit too much. But to say, what if we wanted to speed it up? What if we really wanted to speed it up? So I wanted to use an FPGA or possibly something else, or possibly multiple things, some hardware spikes. So this is for the second half of 2025, assuming that, haven't got more compelling things that have to be done. Work on FPGAs to try to build a prototype event processor, event window processor that will have, hardware support to rip through the stuff. It'll still be doing sequential computation. We shall see. So that is it. Next month, the goal is BV localizes. Actually has like an XY coordinate where BV believes it is after it's tossed into the world with no idea what it is. The stretch goal is BV builds a map somehow, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And the fun is to start making shopping lists. That is it. Thanks for stopping by and taking a look. Let's hope the world gets better. Hope to see you next time. Well, that's interesting. Oh, I always do that. I fade out, and then I forget that I have to deliberately undo the fade. Okay, well, so this was a quiet little thing. We had 3 people here. Hi, thank you for coming. And I think I hit 15 minutes pretty close. It looks like it's still on the 15th minute at the moment. So I'm imagining there probably won't be any questions at the moment, and that's okay. It's funny that last month's update, in particular, with the drama of the reply guy attacking, my whole position that among the many, many ways that you can plausibly, sensibly, usefully view people, one way is you can view them not just as machines, but as programmable machines. And I'm really prepared to go to the mat on that as much as necessary if people are willing to have a discussion, have an argument about it, whatever it is, in good faith. Anyway, the video views for last month are really pretty weird in the sense that there's not, it's not one of the more popular ones exactly, but the people that did watched it quite a bit, and yes, indeed, they're watching. They're pausing and even rewatching the segments where I quoted, the reply guy's mean, nasty language that he was talking about how completely pitiable I was and a con artist and fooling myself as well, etc. And so, yeah, I try hard not to have drama, and even if I thought I could, make up a fake fight like celebrities do. They have, jeez, what a great recording studio. No background noise at all. Having fake spats with other celebrities because that, puts their name in the news cycle for both of them and so forth. I just can't do it because I feel like I would be not being untrue to my own principles about trying to be in good spirit and trying to have a base level of, we could describe this current situation in an absolutely clear and, as unambiguous as necessary to get to a common understanding. But, a lot of times people don't want to do that for good reasons and bad. But one of the reasons is because I suspect they're not going to look very good in the particular rendering because, they're being dickheads or something. And, I am perfectly capable of being a dickhead. I do this as well. But, so be it. Anyway. So the video last time didn't get all that many views, but the views that it did get were substantially longer. People watched a bigger chunk of it than they typically do, so that was interesting. And YouTube kept telling me that the click-through rate was really good, but it was like YouTube wasn't giving me any impressions. Like it had some magic way of knowing this particular viewer, if I show him this thing, that will have a 5% chance of clicking on this thing. But that's a very rare viewer, so the YouTube is not showing it to very many people. So on the one hand, it says, "Wow, great click-through rate," but on the other hand, it has like extremely low total views. I don't know. It was fun. It was just interesting. It was just interesting. It was a little different. Anyway, one other thing I guess I would mention about this whole PID controller, the proportional integral derivative controllers. I had implemented the thing that I implemented myself that was going so unbelievably slow and wiggling like an old man. Was not mathematical, particularly. It had if statements, it had conditions, if speed is less than this or error is greater than that, do these various different things. And I got it working and so forth. But, so now I go and I implement this PID controller. First, I implemented a PD controller, and I actually only added the I part this past weekend, Saturday or Sunday, something like that. And the run that we saw in the second little BB bit was finishing, as always, today. But in order to do the PID thing, there's a few key assumptions that are built in underneath. And the number one assumption is that the error measure that you're getting is linear, because they end up just doing multiplications. You take the error, you multiply it by the proportional scaling factor, and so if the proportional error is bigger, twice as big, you get twice as much push on the motors. And there's no easy way to make BV's tracking error linear. I mean, you can make it linear once BV is very, very close. It's linear. A little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, goes up and down. But then there's this huge dead space where the gray sensor in the center has lost the line completely, but the left gray sensor is still seeing zeros and the right gray sensor is still seeing ones, or whatever it is. But how the heck do you put all of that together and come up with one error measure which you say, okay, treat it linearly? So what I implemented in my naivete with if statements was essentially breaking the pieces right there and using different things. I mean, actually, I didn't go back and look at it, but now that I'm talking about it, it might have been that I was essentially doing a piecewise linear approximation, which would make a whole lot of sense when you have one linear camera in the middle and then two outriggers that you have to go way off before they start reporting any useful data. Anyway, so as always, it's one of these cases where, the received wisdom is both better and worse than you imagine, like that. I mean, on the one hand, I was able to tune it. I was able to get things going, following the Robot Research Lab things, even though my circumstances were very, very different. And one of the things that they talk about a lot in the real robots is you need good traction on your wheels, because if your wheels don't stick, then you have basically no idea what's going on. If your wheels can slide, then all of the error measures just go right out the window. And BV is very slippy. So, that's just as one example. Anyway, just to wrap this diversion up. So on the one hand, trying to cram it all into a linear errors function in order to do the PID terms in the equation to come up with how hard we should try to correct is really kind of a crock. It's not like the elegance of, analytic calculus at all. It's more kind of a hack upon a hack upon a hack, although it does have this kissing cousin relationship to calculus concepts. And so that's good on the one hand, but on the other hand, it meant that now I have to figure out a whole bunch of stuff over again. In particular, the thing that was the weirdest, the integral error, is supposed to be the sum of all the errors that the robot has ever seen, that the controller has ever seen, the errors controlling the plant. And, that's supposed to be like an infinite history, like that, or at least in the simple-minded view of it. And I was like, what the heck can that be? Say, oh, well, so the idea is that since it's all linear and you assume that there's a privileged zero, and you have positive and negative numbers around zero, that you should see errors above zero about as often as you see errors below zero. That means you're balanced. And that in that case, in the long run, the integral of the error should be small, should be near zero. That's the idea. But what if it goes off for a long time? What if you go way off to the left for a long period of time and then you come back and now the integral error is like minus a million or something like that because you had so much time. It's not like just the last thing. It's the sum of all the errors, which are negative, 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 and so on. So in fact, they do all these hacks. They say integral error, except you have a max error and a min error, and you just saturate there. And once you hit those, and there's a explicit problem called integrator unwinding, which is exactly what I just said. That if you spend too much time off on one side and your integrator gets way far away from zero, that when you finally cross the zero, you have to unwind all that error and you'll go way off to the other side. And so if you're not careful, the integral error term will cause you the controller to oscillate more and more and more wildly if the unwinding leads to a bigger winding on the other side, like that. Which is why I didn't want anything to do with it. But after working with the PD controller for a week or so, or maybe 2 weeks even, I started to feel comfortable enough. I'd messed around. I mean, I had to implement. Ulam does not have floating point numbers. And this whole idea of taking a tiny little fraction and multiplying it by an error and taking a difference between two errors and multiplying that by a different tiny little fraction and adding them all up and having it give a number which you multiply times the speed, integers seem kind of crude for that. So I implemented a fixed point package in Ulam. And, I was talking to a friend and they said, geez, that doesn't sound like it's going to be very fast. Well, and of course it's not, but the point is it's not. I didn't implement fixed points versus floating points for speed. I implemented fixed points because there was no floating point available. Anyway, and so I managed to get that working, and I got a little bit more comfortable with it. And, I think it's good to have little fractional values available. I mean, they're crude, they're rough, and you have to say exactly how many bits of integer you want and how many bits of fraction you want, and then you got to pay for that. If you're going to store that value between events, you've got to burn up your very limited bit budget that you got in the atoms that you're controlling to do your events. All right. Anyway, that's me rattling on about a little bit more behind the scenes. So I'm actually very happy that I ramped up on PID controllers a little bit finally, and they're not quite so scary anymore. And I kind of got it working like that. I really do think my integral error might still be screwed up a little bit, but we'll see. Again, it's everything is so slow. A sort of minimal experiment to see if BV's reacting better or worse. Takes maybe half an hour to an hour all in. To do the code, build the code, start the simulator, let the simulator initialize itself, let the whole system warm up till it gets to the point where it would start displaying whatever behavior I'm wondering about. It takes a long time. Okay, well, anyway, as always, I managed to fill up the time all by myself. A few more folks have showed up. Thank you for coming. We'll see. Yeah, if the world doesn't blow up, or it doesn't blow up too badly in too many places, etc. Hope to see you all in a month. Okay, I'm going to end the stream. Bye, folks. Thank you.